Lily Harmon pressed her small body against the rough bark of an ancient tree, listening to the sounds of the forest around her. At 8 years old, she knew these woods better than most adults on verdant rest. Her parents always told her to stay close to the settlement, but Lily loved exploring. Today, something felt different. The birds had stopped singing an hour ago, and that usually meant danger. She heard it then. A low-pained growl coming from somewhere ahead. Lily should have run back home. Every child on the colony knew the rules about the forest. Dragons lived here. Big, dangerous creatures that the Galactic Council said were too aggressive to be near. 3 different alien species had tried to live alongside dragons before humans arrived. All 3 had failed. All 3 had declared dragons as threats. But Lily had seen a dragon once from far away. It had been beautiful, with scales that caught the sunlight like precious gems. She had never understood why something so magnificent had to be called dangerous. The growling came again, weaker this time. Lily made her decision and moved forward carefully, stepping over roots and pushing through thick bushes. When she reached a small clearing, she saw the mouth of a cave half hidden by hanging vines. Something large was inside, breathing heavily. Lily's heart pounded as she crept closer. Inside the cave, her eyes adjusted to the darkness and she gasped. A dragon lay on the stone floor, her scales a deep blue color that reminded Lily of the evening sky. One of her wings was torn and bleeding, the delicate membrane shredded in several places. Plasma burns scarred her side, the kind that only illegal weapons made. Next to the wounded dragon was something that made Lily forget her fear entirely. A baby dragon no bigger than a large dog was trying to drag wet moss toward his mother. The little creature kept slipping, too small and weak to move the heavy plants. He made soft chirping sounds, clearly distressed. The mother dragon's golden eyes locked onto Lily. For a long moment, neither moved. The dragon tried to lift her head, tried to position herself between her baby and this human child, but she was too weak. She collapsed back down with a whimper that broke Lily's heart. "I won't hurt you," Lily whispered, though she didn't know if dragons could understand human speech. She held out her empty hands, showing she carried no weapons. "I want to help." The baby dragon stopped trying to move the moss and stared at Lily with wide, curious eyes. His scales were lighter than his mother's, almost silver in the dim cave light. He tilted his head, studying her. Lily had learned about plants from her parents. They were xenobiologists who studied the wildlife on verdant rest. She recognized the moss the baby dragon had been trying to move. It was medicinal, used by the colonists to treat wounds. The dragons knew about it too. Slowly, carefully, Lily gathered the moss. She could feel the mother dragon watching her every move. The tension in the cave was thick enough to touch. One wrong move and even a wounded dragon could probably hurt her badly. But Lily kept her movements gentle and predictable. When she approached the mother dragon with the moss, the great creature growled low in her throat. It wasn't aggressive, though. It sounded more like a warning, like a mother telling a stranger to be careful with her child. "I know," Lily said softly. "I'll be gentle. I promise." She pressed the moss against the worst of the plasma burns. The dragon flinched but didn't pull away. Lily worked quickly, covering the wounds with the healing plant. She knew it wouldn't be enough. The injuries were too severe, but it was a start. The baby dragon crept closer, sniffing at Lily's hair. His breath was warm and smelled like sulfur and flowers, an odd combination. When Lily paused to look at him, he made a soft, trilling sound and bumped his nose against her arm. "You're worried about your mom, aren't you?" Lily asked, gently patting his head. His scales felt smooth and warm, like sun-heated stone. "I'll help her. I promise I will." Outside the cave, Lily heard something that made her blood run cold. Voices. Human voices, but not friendly ones. Men laughing and talking about tracking signals and valuable scales. Poachers. She understood everything now. These weren't just random hunters. They were criminals who hunted dragons for profit. Dragon scales were illegal to sell in council space, but that just made them more valuable on the black market. The mother dragon hadn't been in some random accident. She had been shot deliberately. The baby dragon heard the voices too. He pressed himself against his mother, trembling. The mother dragon tried once more to rise to protect her child, but her injured body wouldn't cooperate. Lily looked around the cave, her mind racing. She couldn't fight grown men. She was just a kid. But she couldn't leave these dragons to die either. The poachers would come back. They always did when they wounded something but didn't finish the kill. I'll come back, Lily whispered to the dragons. Tonight when it's dark. I'll bring real medicine. Just hold on, okay? Both of you, please hold on. The mother dragon's eyes followed Lily as she backed toward the cave entrance. There was something in that gaze, something that looked almost like understanding, like hope. Lily ran home through the forest, her mind already planning. She would need supplies from her parents' medical lab. She would need to sneak out after bedtime. She would need to be brave. Behind her in the dark cave, a wounded mother held her baby close and waited for a human child to return with a miracle. Darkness covered verdant rest like a thick blanket. When Lily finally crept out of her bedroom window, her backpack felt heavy with stolen medical supplies, bandages, antiseptic spray, and pain medication that her parents used on injured animals. She had watched them work enough times to know the basics. At least she hoped she did. The forest at night was a different world. Strange sounds echoed through the trees, and Lily's small flashlight seemed to barely push back the shadows. Every snap of a twig made her jump. But she kept walking toward the cave, remembering the desperate look in the mother dragon's eyes. When she reached the clearing, she heard the baby dragon before she saw him. He was sitting at the cave entrance as if he had been waiting for her. His silver scales caught her flashlight beam, making him glow softly in the darkness. When he saw Lily, he made an excited chirping sound and bounded toward her. "Shh," Lily whispered, laughing quietly as the baby dragon rubbed his head against her legs like an oversized cat. "You'll wake up the whole forest." Inside the cave, the mother dragon was exactly where Lily had left her. The moss had helped a little, but the wounds still looked terrible. Lily set down her backpack and got to work, moving with the careful confidence her mother always showed when treating injured creatures. This time, the mother dragon didn't growl. She watched Lily with those intelligent golden eyes, seeming to understand that this tiny human was trying to save her life. When Lily cleaned the plasma burns with antiseptic, the dragon hissed in pain but held perfectly still. "I know it hurts," Lily murmured, her hands steady despite her nervousness. "But this will help fight infection. My mom uses it all the time." The baby dragon watched everything Lily did with intense focus. When she wrapped bandages around his mother's torn wing, he tried to help by holding the end of the cloth in his teeth. It would have been funny if the situation wasn't so serious. Over the next week, Lily came back every night. Each time she brought more supplies stolen from her parents' lab. She was careful, only taking small amounts so they wouldn't notice. Each time, the mother dragon seemed a little stronger. The wounds began to close. The swelling went down. Color returned to the areas around the plasma burns. And each time, the baby dragon grew more attached to Lily. By the third night, he followed her everywhere in the cave, making soft sounds that almost seemed like questions. By the fifth night, he had started bringing her things. Pretty rocks, interesting leaves, once even a small dead rabbit that made Lily squeal in surprise. "Thank you, but I don't eat those," she explained, trying not to hurt his feelings. The baby dragon looked confused, then ate the rabbit himself in 3 quick bites. On the 7th night, something amazing happened. Lily was teaching the baby dragon a game, rolling a smooth stone across the cave floor for him to chase, when his mother made a deep rumbling sound. Not a growl of pain or warning. Something different, almost like a purr. The mother dragon slowly, carefully extended one massive paw toward Lily. The gesture was clear even without words. She was offering trust. Lily placed her small hand on the dragon's scaled foot, feeling the warmth and strength beneath. "You're going to be okay," Lily said, surprised to find tears in her eyes. "Both of you." The mother dragon made that rumbling sound again, and the baby dragon bounded over to join them, pressing himself against Lily's side. In that moment, Lily felt something shift. This wasn't just about helping an injured animal anymore. Something deeper had formed between them, something that felt like family. But as the days passed, Lily began to notice other things too. The mother dragon would sometimes tilt her head when Lily spoke, as if truly understanding the words. The baby dragon could follow complex instructions, like fetching specific items or moving to certain spots in the cave. Once, when Lily accidentally cut her hand on a sharp rock, both dragons had reacted with clear concern, the baby dragon bringing moss without being asked. These weren't just animals. They were smart, really smart, maybe as smart as people. Lily also discovered more signs of the poachers. She found their camp one afternoon, hidden in a thick part of the forest about a mile from the cave. They had tracking equipment and maps marked with dragon nesting sites. She overheard them talking about the wounded dragon, about coming back to finish the job once they had more firepower. She needed to tell someone. But who? If she told her parents about the dragons, would they report it to the council? Would enforcement officers come and take the dragons away, or worse, declare them too dangerous and have them killed? The colony had strict rules about contact with the native wildlife, especially dragons. Her parents noticed something was wrong. At breakfast one morning, her mother asked why she looked so tired. Lily made excuses about bad dreams and trouble sleeping. She hated lying, but she had to protect her friends. Friends. That was what they had become. Lily had started calling the mother dragon Skyfire because of her beautiful blue scales. The baby she called Spark because he was full of energy and life. She knew they probably had their own names she couldn't speak with her human voice, but these names felt right. On the 10th night, as Lily was preparing to leave the cave, Spark did something that changed everything. He grabbed the hem of her jacket with his teeth gently but firmly and pulled her back. Then he walked to the cave entrance, looked outside, and growled. Something was out there, something dangerous. Lily heard it a moment later. Footsteps. Multiple people moving through the forest, trying to be quiet and failing. The poachers were coming back, and they were heading straight for the cave. Lily's hands shook as she pressed herself against the back wall of the cave. Skyfire struggled to stand, her healing wounds protesting the movement. She managed to position herself between the cave entrance and her family, both human and dragon. Spark stayed pressed against Lily's legs, trembling but not running. The footsteps stopped just outside. Lily could see flashlight beams cutting through the darkness, moving back and forth across the entrance. Then a man's voice, rough and mean-sounding. Tracker says she's in there. Finally found the big one that got away. About time, another voice replied. Those scales are worth a fortune. Boss is getting impatient. Lily's mind raced. She couldn't let them hurt Skyfire and Spark. But what could one small girl do against armed poachers? Then she remembered something her father always said. When you can't fight, you run for help. She pulled out her communication device, the one every colonist carried for emergencies, and pressed the distress button. Then she sent a direct message to her parents. Cave in Sector 7. Dragons need help. Poachers here. Please come now. The device beeped. The flashlight beams immediately swung toward the cave entrance. Someone's in there with it, one of the poachers said. Could be a kid. The colonists let their brats run wild out here. Even better, the rough voice responded. Grab the kid, use them as bait. The dragon's already wounded. She can't fight much. But the poachers didn't know Skyfire. Wounded or not, she was still a mother protecting her children. When the first man stepped into the cave, Skyfire roared. The sound was so loud that dust fell from the ceiling. Even injured, even weak from days of healing, she was terrifying. The poachers stumbled backward, cursing. Then Lily heard the whine of charging weapons. Plasma rifles, the same kind that had hurt Skyfire before. No, Lily screamed. She didn't think, didn't plan. She just ran forward, putting herself between the weapons and the dragons. If they wanted to shoot, they would have to go through her first. The poachers stared at her in shock. One of them, a tall man with a scarred face, lowered his weapon slightly. Get out of the way, kid. This doesn't concern you. Yes, it does, Lily said, her voice shaking but determined. These are my friends. You can't hurt them. Friends? The scarred man laughed, but it wasn't a nice sound. They're dragons. Dangerous animals. The council has them listed as threats. We're doing everyone a favor. They're not dangerous, Lily insisted. They're smart and kind, and they've never hurt anyone. You're the ones who hurt them first. You're the criminals, not them. Before the poachers could respond, new lights appeared in the forest. Lots of them. Lily heard her father's voice calling her name, heard the sounds of multiple people crashing through the undergrowth. Help was coming. The poachers looked at each other, uncertain. They could try to finish this quickly, but now there were witnesses coming. The scarred man cursed and gestured to his crew. Fall back. We'll come back another time with better planning. They disappeared into the forest like shadows, moving fast and silent despite their size. Lily's legs gave out and she collapsed to the cave floor, shaking with delayed fear and relief. Spark was immediately at her side, nuzzling her face and making worried sounds. Her parents burst into the cave moments later, flashlights blazing. They stopped dead when they saw the dragons. Her mother, Anne, gasped. Her father, Robert, put a protective hand on his wife's shoulder. But neither of them ran. They were scientists, and their curiosity was stronger than their fear. Lily, her father said carefully, keeping his voice calm. Are you hurt? I'm okay, Lily said, struggling to stand. Spark helped support her, letting her lean against his solid body. But they're not. The poacher shot Skyfire. I've been treating her wounds, but she needs real help. Better medicine than I could steal from the lab. Her mother moved closer, her medical training overriding her caution. She examined Skyfire from a safe distance, her eyes widening as she took in the plasma burns and the bandages that Lily had carefully applied. You did this? All by yourself? Lily nodded. I had to. They would have died. Robert approached slowly, holding out his hands like Lily had done that first day. Skyfire watched him carefully but didn't threaten. She could tell somehow that these humans were related to the little one who had saved her life. When Robert knelt down beside Lily, Spark sniffed his hair curiously. The council won't like this, Robert said quietly. They have strict regulations about dragons. 3 species reported them as too aggressive for coexistence. If they find out we've had close contact, there could be serious consequences. I don't care about the council, Lily said fiercely. They're wrong about dragons. Look at Spark. Look at Skyfire. They're not aggressive. They're just protecting their families like anyone would. Anne knelt down too, getting her first close look at the baby dragon. Spark, ever curious and friendly, walked right up to her and bumped his head against her hand. Anne laughed in surprise and delight, gently petting his scales. They're incredible, she whispered. Lily, do you realize what you've discovered? These dragons show signs of advanced intelligence. Tool use, emotional reciprocity, selective trust. This could change everything we know about them. Can you help them? Lily asked, her voice small. Please? Her parents looked at each other, having one of those silent conversations that adults do. Finally, Robert nodded. We'll help, but we need to be smart about this. The poachers will be back with reinforcements, and when the council hears about this, they'll send investigators. We need a plan. 3 days passed in a blur of activity. The Harmon family worked together to properly treat Skyfire's wounds with real medical equipment. Anne's expertise as a xenobiologist proved invaluable. She created a specialized treatment plan that combined human medicine with natural remedies from the forest. Skyfire's wing was healing faster now, and she could move without pain for the first time since the attack. But the peace didn't last. Word spread through the colony about the dragons. Some colonists were curious and wanted to help. Others were terrified and wanted the Harmons to report the creatures to council authorities immediately. The settlement was divided, with arguments breaking out in the streets and meeting halls. Then, on the 3rd night, the poachers returned. But this time they came prepared. They brought portable sonic emitters, devices designed specifically to disorient dragons by disrupting their sensitive hearing. They surrounded the cave while most of the colony slept, setting up their equipment in a careful perimeter. Lily was inside the cave with Spark when the attack began. The sonic waves hit like invisible walls of pain. Spark shrieked and collapsed, his small body convulsing. Skyfire roared in agony, her enhanced hearing making the assault even worse. Even Lily felt it, a pressure in her head that made her dizzy and sick. Through the cave entrance, she saw the scarred poacher from before, a cruel smile on his face. Should have minded your own business, kid. Now we do this the hard way. But Lily didn't run. She couldn't. Spark was suffering, curled up on the cave floor with his paws pressed against his head. Without thinking, Lily threw herself over the baby dragon's body, covering his ears with her hands and pressing his head against her chest. Her own body blocked some of the sonic waves from reaching him directly. Leave them alone, she screamed, tears streaming down her face from the pain. They haven't done anything to you. The poachers advanced into the cave. Skyfire tried to fight, but the sonic weapons kept her disoriented and weak. She stumbled, unable to coordinate her movements. One of the poachers raised a plasma rifle, aiming at the mother dragon's head. Then Robert Harmon appeared at the cave entrance, carrying equipment from his research lab. He activated a device that created an interference field, disrupting the sonic emitters. The high-pitched whine cut off abruptly, leaving blessed silence. "Get away from my daughter," Robert said, his voice cold and dangerous in a way Lily had never heard before. Anne was right behind him, along with a handful of colonists who trusted the Harmon family. They weren't fighters, just farmers and scientists and teachers. But they had come when called, bringing whatever tools they could find. One man carried a heavy wrench. A woman held a mining laser. An elderly teacher had a walking stick raised like a weapon. The poachers looked around at the gathered colonists and laughed. "You think you can stop us? We're professionals. You're just civilians playing hero." But they had underestimated two things. First, they underestimated how fiercely humans would fight to protect those they cared about. Second, they underestimated the dragons themselves. Skyfire had been holding back this whole time, even through the pain, afraid of hurting the humans who were helping her. But when she saw Lily injured, lying on the cave floor with blood trickling from her nose where the sonic waves had hit hardest, something changed. Her maternal instincts kicked into overdrive, extending to include the human child who had saved her baby's life. She moved faster than anyone thought possible for a wounded dragon. Her tail swept two poachers off their feet. Her good wing knocked aside a plasma rifle. Her roar, now that the sonic emitters were disabled, was powerful enough to make the cave walls shake. And then sparks surprised everyone. The baby dragon, seeing his mother fight, seeing Lily hurt, did something he had never done before. He opened his mouth and a stream of fire burst out, small but hot enough to melt the nearest sonic emitter into slag. The poachers hadn't expected the baby to be old enough for fire breath. They scattered in panic, their professional confidence shattered. Some ran into the forest. Others stumbled over their own equipment trying to escape. The scarred leader tried to grab his weapon, but Anne Harmon stepped on it, her face fierce and protective. "I suggest you leave," Anne said quietly, "before my husband calls council enforcement. Poaching is illegal. Using sonic weapons on protected planets is illegal. Attacking colonists is very illegal. Do you want me to continue the list?" The scarred man glared at her but backed away. Within minutes, all the poachers had disappeared into the forest, leaving their expensive equipment behind. Lily sat up slowly, her head spinning. Spark immediately rushed to her side, making worried chirping sounds and licking her face with his warm tongue. She laughed weakly and hugged him tight. "I'm okay. We're all okay," but that wasn't entirely true. The attack had been reported automatically by the settlement security systems. Council enforcement protocols had been triggered. A message came through on Robert's communication device just as the sun started to rise. "Council, mediator arriving in 48 hours to investigate. Reported dragon incident. And assess threat level," the message read. "All colonists are to avoid contact with native megafauna until official determination is made. Violation of this order may result in settlement sanctions." The colonists gathered in the cave looked at each other with worry. A council mediator meant serious trouble. They had 2 days to figure out how to prove that Skyfire and Spark weren't dangerous. 2 days to change centuries of galactic policy about dragons. 2 days to save their friends. Lily looked at Spark, who was pressed against her side, exhausted but loyal. She looked at Skyfire, who was watching all the humans who had defended her family with something like wonder in her golden eyes. And she looked at her parents, who had risked everything to stand with her. "We can do this," Lily said firmly. "We'll show them the truth. Dragons aren't monsters. They're just misunderstood." Anne knelt down and hugged her daughter. "Yes, we will, together." The council ship landed in the main settlement square exactly 48 hours after the incident. It was smaller than Lily expected, sleek and official-looking with the council symbol painted on its side. When the ramp lowered, a single figure emerged, unlike any being Lily had ever seen. Council mediator Rella was an amphibious species, her skin a shifting pattern of blues and greens that seemed to change with her mood. She wore the formal robes of her office and carried a datapad that probably contained every report ever filed about dragons. Her large eyes swept across the gathered colonists with cool assessment. "I am here to evaluate the situation regarding illegal contact with classified dangerous megafauna," Rella said, her voice surprisingly gentle despite the harsh words. "Reports indicate that colonists have been harboring wounded dragons within settlement boundaries. This violates 3 separate council regulations and puts the entire colony at risk." Robert stepped forward. "Mediator Rella, if you would allow me to explain the circumstances." "Circumstances are irrelevant," Rella interrupted. 3 member species have filed official reports declaring dragons too aggressive for coexistence. The evidence is clear and documented. Dragons attack without provocation. They cannot be reasoned with. They pose an unacceptable threat to sapient life. "But that's not true," Lily burst out, unable to stay quiet. Her mother tried to hold her back, but Lily pulled free and ran toward the mediator. They're not dangerous. They're smart and kind. They only fight when someone threatens their families, just like we do. Rella looked down at the small human child with something that might have been pity. I understand you are young and do not fully comprehend the danger, but council policy exists for good reasons. Dragons have killed members of 3 species. Would you risk more deaths because of childish sentiment? I'm not being childish, Lily said, her voice steady despite her fear. I'm telling you the truth. You're believing old reports from people who probably never really tried to understand dragons. Have you ever actually met one? That question seemed to surprise Rella. Her skin shifted to a darker blue. I am a mediator. I review evidence and make determinations based on established facts. Then come meet them, Lily insisted. Make your determination based on real experience, not just old files. Isn't that what a good mediator would do? Rella was silent for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. Very well. Take me to these dragons, but I warn you, if they show any signs of aggression, I will order immediate removal from the planet. The walk to the cave felt longer than usual. Lily held mediator Rella's webbed hand, trying to help her navigate the forest path. Rella seemed uncomfortable with the physical contact at first, but she didn't pull away. Behind them, Anne and Robert followed with recording equipment. If this went badly, they wanted evidence of what really happened. Spark met them at the cave entrance. The baby dragon had grown noticeably in the past few weeks, now about the size of a large pony. When he saw Lily, he made his happy chirping sound and started to bound forward. But then he saw Rella and stopped, tilting his head curiously. This is Mediator Rella, Lily explained to Spark, as if he could understand every word. Maybe he could. She needs to see that you're not dangerous. Can you be on your best behavior? Spark approached slowly, carefully, keeping his body language non-threatening. He sniffed at Rella's robes, then sat down in front of her and made a questioning trill. It was the same sound he made when he wanted Lily to play with him or teach him something new. Rella stared at the dragon. This behavior is not consistent with the filed reports. The documentation states that dragons attack on sight. Maybe those other species did something to make the dragons attack, Anne suggested. Maybe they threatened dragon nests or young. Any mother would defend her children. Inside the cave, Skyfire waited. She had recovered well, her wounds now mostly healed. When Rella entered, the mother dragon could have attacked. She was strong enough now, but instead she simply watched, her golden eyes intelligent and calculating. Request permission to approach, Rella said formally, speaking to the dragon as if it could understand. Skyfire made a low rumbling sound and lowered her head slightly. Not a submission, but an acknowledgement, an invitation. Over the next 3 hours, Mediator Rella observed the dragons. She watched how Spark played with Lily, following complex rules in their games. She saw how Skyfire carefully demonstrated hunting techniques to her baby, breaking down the lessons into clear steps. She witnessed the dragons using tools, problem-solving, showing emotional responses that matched sapient behavior patterns. Most importantly, she saw the bond between human child and dragon hatchling. When Lily pretended to be hurt, Spark immediately brought her water and the medicinal moss. When Spark got tangled in some vines, Lily patiently helped free him, talking him through his panic. They communicated across species boundaries with a clarity that shouldn't have been possible. This requires further investigation, Rella finally said. I will need to review the original reports from the 3 species who declared dragons dangerous. There may have been circumstances not properly documented. She pulled up files on her datapad, reading through old reports. Her skin color shifted through several shades as she read, each change indicating different emotions. Finally, she looked up, her expression troubled. The first species attempted to colonize prime nesting grounds. The second tried to capture dragon eggs for study. The third used sonic weapons to drive dragons away from mining sites. She paused. In each case, the dragons were defending their territory and offspring. They were not the aggressors. So they were just protecting their families, Lily said quietly, like any parent would. Rella looked at Skyfire, who was grooming Spark with careful attention. She looked at Lily, who was leaning against the baby dragon like he was an oversized pet. She looked at her datapad full of files that suddenly seemed incomplete and biased. I need to make an official report to the council, Rella said. Mediator Rella spent 5 more days on verdant rest, observing the dragons with scientific precision. She documented everything: how Spark learned new skills, how Skyfire communicated with other dragons that cautiously approached the settlement, how both dragons showed clear preferences, emotions, and decision-making abilities that matched sapient species standards. On the third day, something remarkable happened. Rella was in the cave taking notes when Spark brought her one of his favorite toys, a smooth stone that he liked to chase. He dropped it at her feet and looked at her expectantly, making his playful trill. He was inviting her to play, treating her like he treated Lily and the other humans he trusted. Rella stared at the stone for a long moment. Then slowly she picked it up and rolled it across the cave floor. Spark chased it with obvious delight, brought it back, and waited for her to throw it again. They played for 20 minutes, and when it was done, Rella's skin had shifted to a warm golden color that Anne said meant happiness. "I was wrong," Rella said that evening at a colony meeting. "The council was wrong. Dragons are not dangerous animals. They are sentient beings who deserve protection and the same rights we extend to other intelligent species." Not everyone was happy with this announcement. Some colonists argued that changing centuries of policy based on one settlement's experience was foolish. Others worried about what would happen if dragons decided humans were threats instead of friends. But then Lily stood up to speak. At 8 years old, she was the youngest person at the meeting. But when she talked about Spark and Skyfire, everyone listened. "They just want what we all want," Lily said simply. "A safe place to raise their families. Friends they can trust. A chance to live without being afraid all the time. Spark saved my life during the Poacher attack. Skyfire protected my parents. They're not monsters. They're just people with scales instead of skin." The colony voted that night. It wasn't unanimous, but the majority agreed to support mediator Rella's new classification of dragons as sapient beings, worthy of protection. Rella's official report to the council took weeks to process. During that time, news of the human girl and her dragon friend spread across council space. Media outlets requested interviews. Scientists wanted to study the bond. Some species were skeptical, others curious. The 3 species who had originally declared dragons dangerous were invited to send representatives to Verdant Rest. They came reluctantly, still maintaining that dragons were threats, but when they saw Spark playing with human children, when they witnessed Skyfire's careful intelligence, when they reviewed evidence that their own aggressive actions had provoked the dragon attacks, their positions began to soften. The final council hearing was held via holographic conference, with representatives from dozens of species watching. Lily was asked to testify with Spark beside her. The baby dragon, now as large as a small vehicle, lay calmly at her feet while she spoke. "I was scared the first time I met them," Lily told the council honestly. "But I was more scared of letting them die. And when I chose to help instead of run away, I found out that kindness is stronger than fear. Spark and Skyfire taught me that family isn't about what species you are. It's about who you choose to protect and who chooses to protect you." When Lily finished speaking, Spark did something that nobody expected. He had been separated from her during the testimony preparation, kept in a holding area while the formal proceedings occurred. The moment he was allowed into the chamber, he didn't walk. He ran, his powerful legs carrying him across the floor faster than anyone had seen him move before. He raced straight to Lily and threw his considerable weight against her in what could only be called a hug, nearly knocking her over. His wings, now large enough to fly, wrapped around her protectively. He made sounds of pure joy and relief, his whole body trembling with emotion at being reunited with his human sister. The holographic cameras caught every moment. The image of a dragon, supposedly a dangerous predator, embracing a human child with obvious love became the defining moment of the hearing. It was broadcast across council space, shared billions of times, becoming a symbol of what interspecies cooperation could achieve. The council's decision was announced the next day. Dragons were officially reclassified as sapient beings with full protection under council law. Verdant Rest would become the first joint human-dragon settlement, a sanctuary world where both species could live together peacefully. Hunting dragons was now illegal everywhere in council space, with severe penalties for violations. The poachers who had attacked Skyfire were arrested and faced serious charges. Other dragon worlds would be protected and monitored to prevent future conflicts. Lily was given a formal title, Junior Ambassador for Dragon Relations. It was mostly ceremonial, but it meant something important. It meant the galaxy recognized what an 8-year-old girl had accomplished through simple compassion. 1 year later, verdant rest had changed completely. Dragon families lived peacefully alongside human settlers. Dragon hatchlings played with human children in carefully supervised groups. Adult dragons helped with heavy construction work, while humans shared their medical knowledge and technology. Skyfire had become a teacher, helping other dragons understand humans and bridging the gap between species. Spark never left Lily's side. He attended school with her, though he had to sit outside the classroom because he no longer fit through the door. He learned to read human writing and could understand 3 languages. He and Lily had adventures together, exploring the forest that was now safe for both their peoples. One evening, as the sun set over verdant rest, Lily sat with her parents watching dragon and human children play together in the settlement square. Spark lay beside her, his head resting in her lap, his breathing steady and peaceful. "You changed the galaxy," Anne said softly, stroking her daughter's hair. Lily shook her head. "I just made a friend." The galaxy changed itself when it decided to pay attention. Spark rumbled his agreement, and in the distance, Skyfire's call echoed through the mountains, a song of peace that the whole planet could hear.